Hello and welcome back to another episode of Midlife Humor Gurus. My name is Sue.
And I'm Jen.
One syllable names that we're trying to stretch out into two.
Exactly.
That's how we roll.
hmm
No such thing as word economization here.
Nope, for real.
So we are hopping into, I love this topic. Because as soon as Jen read it to me, I'm like, yep, we're doing that right now. Right now, that's the one. Let's go. Roll it, roll it, roll it. Start it rolling. Just because it is seriously the vibe that I'm in right now, and it's the mood that I'm in, and it's a good thing. So I'm going to let you introduce what it is that we're going to be talking about today, Jen.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Take it
So
away, Jen.
and here we go. So I will share for those of you that are watching on YouTube. You don't have to, but I make a recording of the show, much to Sue's dismay. But I like having things on YouTube because some people are so visual. I'm a visual person, so that's why I like having it on there. But there's a book called Kintsugi Wellness: The Japanese Art of Nourishing Mind, Body, and Spirit by Candice Kumai. And it's just a beautiful book. It's white with sort of this gold marbling in it. It's so, so pretty. But I saw a friend mention it actually. So I always love these cool connections and resources you find through friends. And a friend was like, "Oh my God, I'm reading this. I absolutely love it. It's just brilliant." And it's really giving me something to think about. And I'm like, okay, cool. Cause she's in my age bracket, right? And so I'm like, okay, something's resonating for women. I love checking it out. So what kintsugi is, and we've probably all seen it in one way, shape, or form at some point, but I do love having like an actual name for it. And we're going to talk just a little bit about it. So kintsugi, I actually was not pronouncing it correctly. Kintsugi is the Japanese art of golden repair. And in essence, what it is if, for example, you had a teacup and it was your grandmother's and you were moving it and it broke, in our culture, I think most of us would go, well, shit, and it would go in the garbage, right? We'd be heartbroken and sad and we put it in the garbage and we part with it. And in Japanese culture, it's the art of taking like a lacquer and you actually glue it back together and then you sprinkle on, I believe, if I'm getting this correctly, like a gold dust. And then it hardens. And what it is it's all the spots where the cracks then reconnect. So and actually in their culture, things are made more beautiful by having those cracks in them, which is very interesting because I even think symbolically, this is what midlife looks like. Is we get to midlife, we're like a broken ass teacup. You're welcome, everyone. Words of inspiration. Somebody write that shit down as a quote. But what I'm saying is, we've lived a lot of life, right? We've gone through some things. We've got some dings. There's probably chips taken out of us here and there. And to me, it's something about creating a relationship with ourselves and our journeys that is more inspirational than just we're broken, dinged up pieces of material, right? And so I love, love, love this idea. So when I was started reading the book, and I'm not very far through, by the way, I'm kind of slowly making my way through and marking my favorite pages and all that. But this was something that was really beautiful to me. And this is what she said: Kintsugi is applied to vessels that are not just broken, but beloved. The gold that seals the cracks is applied with an artist's care and devotion. The finished product is more beautiful than it was before. We deserve this too. And we shouldn't have to wait until we feel broken to give ourselves this gift. And I just read it and I thought, and here's honestly, my initial absolute thought out of this was, first of all, I'm putting this in my material, my coaching material. So I was like, this is genius. But also, it's such a completely different perspective than we have in our culture. I'm just being completely real that I don't
Mhm.
know. We're so busy working to evade our failures, our mistakes, the struggles, the cracks, the broken parts. And I don't really know that we do a really solid job of celebrating any of that or seeing it as beautiful. And so there's a really neat way. It's not the lotus vibe of starting again necessarily, right? And I love the lotus mythology and symbology for that. So we'll kind of like
Right.
drop that in. But this is much more honoring and actually loving the beauty of the pieces
Yeah.
that to get us here, which I just think is a completely different idea. How does that hit you? How does that hit
Oh,
you? I'd love to hear from you.
I literally just had this conversation with somebody the other day. I can't remember who. I had a tooth pulled. So the last 10 days are a little hazy for me, but I had a conversation with somebody about I just started a new job here a couple of months ago, and we'll talk about that in another episode too. But I was talking about how refreshing it is to be in a work environment where you can mess up.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not something you strive for,
Right.
but it's also not something that you're not getting written up, you're not getting punished, you're not getting scolded, you're not getting reprimanded.
Right.
Somebody that I was talking to, they said they said the exact same thing you just said, Jen. In other cultures, your blemishes are not the ones that are focused on, it's your accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have one accomplishment and 10 blemishes, it's the accomplishment that gets discussed,
Mm-hmm.
not the blemish. And
Mm-hmm.
it's different. It is different. We were raised in a very different culture where like you said, you try to evade that. You try to evade messing up or making a mistake or having a blemish or things like that. And if you do, then you have to work very hard to either rectify it
Mm-hmm.
or cover it up, or we spend a lot of time avoiding it.
Mm-hmm.
So I never even thought about that until I had that conversation with somebody. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's it. It hit me. That's exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't so much think that I put my energy into striving to be better as I have into making sure I don't screw up.
Yeah. And
The
isn't that a
evidence
totally different? And
correctly
those are
wrong.
two totally different mindsets. It's crazy.
Yes,
Isn't that crazy to think that like those are two completely different vibes? They
yes,
just are. They
yep.
are. And I think that's true of a lot of our culture, though, is that that's the way we look at
It's the same coin. It's just the other side,
it.
really.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's the
Mm-hmm.
glass half full, half empty mentality.
It totally is.
Um, just in a lot more, I think, in a more intricate way,
Yeah.
really. I think in a
Yes.
deeper, more complicated way.
Yeah.
The other thought that I had when you mentioned this, when we were talking about these, Jen, um, I've been thinking about this all morning actually, and I don't know what happened in my brain and why, but I I've been trying to do more and go out more and do things more and
Mm-hmm.
like integrate myself back into normal like human society.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to say yes more to things and stuff like that. So there's a friend of mine who you just don't say no to her. She just says, "We're doing this and this is when people are going to get there." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know why you can't say no to this woman, but you just can't." And for whatever reason, neither can Jeffrey, apparently, because we decided that they were doing dinner and it was going to be a bunch of people that I knew. I knew every single person. And so I was there, but I was dressed super casually. Like I basically kind of look like I have a little jumpsuit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a slim person. So I was comfortable and that's all that really mattered. And I knew I was going to be around people that I'd be comfortable around. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really think that much of it. It was night. It was evening, no makeup, hair's casual, whatever.
Yeah.
So I was really good with that. And then someone was there and I didn't even think about this. I seriously like if you took a Teletubby and an
Mm-hmm.
Oompa Loompa and they had like maybe like a one night stand at a frat party or something,
Uh-huh.
I'm the basic result of that. That's what I was um wearing. That's what I look like. So I didn't think anything of it until there was a guest there who has an actual camera with film and he started taking pictures. And I'm like, I left the room. I'm like, nope,
Mm-hmm.
I'm out. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like the way I look in pictures. I don't like the way I was comfortable. That wasn't like the issue. Like
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I was
Right.
comfortable in my skin.
Yeah.
I'm not here to take pictures. You know how much I love being on camera. Here I am in all my icky glory. I'm just not, I just don't like it. And everybody argues with me and I'm like, thank you so much for complimenting me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing what y'all are seeing. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't want to be in pictures if I don't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
I never really used to be that way, but I'm getting to be more that way now. I'm like, nope, not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I got up and I left the room. I didn't feel bad about it. I didn't. And the guy even said, I'm sorry, I should have asked for consent first. I'm like, no, honestly, I don't care. I don't feel offended.
I
I
just don't
don't,
want to be in it. Yeah.
I'm just not going to be in, I'm not going to be
Right.
in it, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And not, and it is what it is. It's part of it is, yeah, thinking about what, I'm trying to work on not caring about what other people think. But at the same time, if I'm seeing that and I'm looking at that, there's no way that I just don't want to be part of it.
Yeah.
So I didn't even like, I found myself not even going back to him and saying anything about it. Like I didn't want him to feel bad, but at
Right.
the same time, I'm not going to explain myself either, you know?
Yep.
So I'm like, boom, I'm out. See ya.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
I just went into another room,
Yeah. Yep.
no big deal. It is what it is. And
Right.
then I was thinking about it today for whatever reason. I got up this morning and I was getting ready to take Ziggy for a walk. And I put a sweatshirt on and I kept my pajama pants on.
Mm-hmm.
And Ziggy and I went for a half an hour walk right down our busy road here.
Mm-hmm.
It was commute time. Everyone's on their way to work. Don't care. Don't
Mm-hmm.
care. It was
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Like I didn't want to be in
Mm-hmm.
the pictures. Like I wouldn't want someone to snap a picture of me.
Right.
I think a lot of it was what's happening is that I don't like social media for that reason
Okay.
because I've seen people take pictures of strangers
Yeah.
and then say crap about them on their Facebook posts. And I'm like, that's so shitty. Why are you a shitty human being? Who
Yeah.
does that?
Yeah.
I can't control whether people do that or not. That's
Right.
fine, whatever. But at the same time, like it didn't bother me this morning that I wasn't like dressed to the nines. I wasn't even wearing a bra. I
Yeah.
just had a nice loose sweatshirt on, taking my
Right.
dog for a walk.
Right.
So I'm I'm fine with my imperfections. I really am. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's funny because I was literally thinking about it this morning. That's why when you brought it up, Jen, I'm like, oh my God, that's been on my mind all morning. I'm fine with my imperfections. I'm fine
Mm-hmm.
with the fact that I'm of a certain age. I'm fine with the fact that I'm still working on it. I need to lose weight. I'm not 18 anymore. I'm not, bounce backable. I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be in pictures. That's really what my problem. That's my only problem is I just don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be in pictures. It's not
Mm-hmm.
so much that I'm not comfortable with myself and how I'm changing.
Mm-hmm.
It's that outwardness. It's like that sharing of myself to strangers
Mm-hmm.
that I don't feel like I should have to do
Mm-hmm.
because people are unkind. And when those comments, or even when I see people say that about other people, it
Sure.
hurts me.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of that's where I'm like, I'm always thought like, oh, I need to be more comfortable in my skin and I need to feel better about the way I look and I need to this and that. No, I'm fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want every moment to be captured. That's
Mm-hmm.
all,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, and I think, and so one, I hear you, and I would say for the woman that might be listening, one that relates to exactly what you said. I think most of us probably have had moments where we're like, let's just not have pictures. I actually do less photo taking more honestly than it is for how anyone looks or how I look, as much as I would rather be present to the experience. And
Yeah,
it's different when somebody's got a camera and their intention is really to capture memories. I mean, right, because that's probably a little
right.
more, my taking pictures is also an effort to protect memories, but I think it's very for me, it's like I just keep my phone away kind of a lot of the time now because I feel
Mhm.
like when I'm with my people, I want to be with my people and not on my phone, right? But
Exactly.
I would
Yep.
also say if you're a woman listening, also one, honor yourself and where you are in your comfort zone. And if that's not what you want to do, that's totally okay, obviously. And also, it's also okay to look at someone and say, are these going to be for social media?
Yeah.
I would not be comfortable. I would prefer not to be on social media. So if I can take a snapshot and we'll just enjoy it and share it as friends, that's awesome. If this is something you want to share on social media, then I would rather pass because I just don't love having my stuff out there. The
Right.
only reason I'm saying it, not as a judgment on you at all, as much as to say, if you're listening, there's routes to go through this. If you're like, I like the memory, but I don't want it on social, you can say,
Yeah.
I don't want to be on social media. Like that's okay to say. Like a lot of people don't
Right.
like to be tagged. They have rules on their Facebook page and their
Yeah.
other pages so that they can't randomly get tagged. Trust me, I've been tagged in some
Me,
really
I'm
super
people.
unflattering, ugly images of myself, which I do not like. So I'm just being completely real, right? Like we all have that experience in one way, shape, or form. And so yeah, I totally I relate to that and I understand. And I think I just want to like make sure you all are empowered. Like, listen, speak your truth, man. If it's like you don't want to be on social, say, I don't want this on social
Yeah.
media.
That's true too. Going
Yeah,
even deeper than that. Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
Well, and the thing is too, for me, it's almost like, and I know that the pictures are being taken, like the host of the party took pictures too. Again, not saying no to her. I can't
yeah,
say no to the woman. I don't know what it is.
yeah.
But she did come in and she was like trying to sneak pictures out. I'm like, and I said her name and she's like, what? She's 70, so she doesn't give a fuck.
Nope, nope.
Um, But she's like, what? And I'm like, don't you give me. And then I'm trying not to be too animated about it because it's everybody's prerogative to do whatever they want. I
Right.
mean,
It is. Right.
there's nothing protecting anybody from taking your picture. It's not that. It's
Right.
just it's just the whole idea of like that wasn't even anything that I
Yeah.
wanted to like. This is not, it's not a holiday, it's not a birthday, it's not a, whatever. It's just
Yeah.
it's a day. It's a
Yeah.
Sunday. It's an evening. We
Yeah.
see each other all the time. Let's just be.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And I think what's really powerful is really recognizing like the power of enjoying a moment the way that you need to.
Mhm.
And then talking about like, listen, like we all have imperfections. And so being okay with that, I think is a midlife development. I honestly
Yeah,
really do. I think it's a
it
piece of
is.
work we're trying to do
Yeah.
for ourselves and our sanity, and also for the people around us. Maybe we've got kids or we've got nieces and nephews, or we've got people that are so everything is how do I talk about myself? How do I respect myself? How do I behave in that way so that people that are watching that I would want to have this powerful message about loving yourself in whatever form you are is witnessing that message, right? That's tough. And I have a daughter who is
Yeah.
almost 20. Being careful about what I say about myself in her presence has been a really hard thing. I'm not going to lie. And normally I was pretty good, but there's definitely been some times where I've slipped and said things in front of her that I probably wish I hadn't. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the whole idea, though, of really celebrating the tough stuff, right? So to me, in a way, that gold, where the things have been broken, are a little bit of the same analogy of the muck of the lotus. It's that
Yeah.
there's a richness in what we're getting out of the broken parts and the experiences and the stories and the tough moments. And they actually, to me, and this has been true, this is so funny because Kintsugi is really like what I think I thought for a million years in my therapy practice. And it's actually a value of mine that I walked away from therapy with, which is I love gritty people. I'm not going to lie. This is going to sound in its own right in a very judgmental stance to take, but I honestly, when someone is so positive that they don't have any, like, I've been here, I've experienced this, I don't know what to do with you. I get this like probably weird zoned out face because I'm like, I don't relate to that. I don't understand when someone is able to just sit and say like, "Oh, my life is beautiful." Listen, now listen. Do I think my life is fucking fantastic? I actually do. And also, if you said to me, "Hey, Jen, what's new? How you've been?" I'm not going to be like, "Oh my God, everything is awesome. My business is awesome. My husband is awesome. My house is awesome." I expect people to be like literally like what? It's not relatable. So the person that will tell me I love my life and these are the things I'm experiencing. This is the stuff I'm going, and to me, I literally have such a connection with a person willing to talk about those strands of gold. To me, I'm much more interested. You're so much more interesting. I don't know how to, that sounds so rude, but it's just I don't have a better term. I feel like people are so much more interesting when they're willing to really take a look at those dings, the cracks, the spots that have been broken and healed over. And do I think people are broken? No. But do I know we've had moments that we experience where we feel like we've been shattered? I mean, really think about it. How many times have you been shattered and put back together again? I mean, if I had to really count, I would have to think about it a minute. But I would tell you, I'm willing to bet between 3 and 5 times at least, I feel like my life has been completely shattered and put back together again.
Mhm.
Honestly, whether a big loss, whether a big transition in my life, whatever it might be, I will guarantee you I've had a good few wingdings and like a little bit like a Humpty Dumpty. And so I invite us to think about, what's the value? And so this would be my question for you. What is the value of the breaks, the dings, and the gold? What do you think, from your perspective, the real value in midlife is in looking at that from a different perspective?
So two trains of thought, and one is circling back to what when you originally started talking about the dings and
Yeah,
you know, how many times we've been shattered,
yeah,
not just from the personal, so not just from the physical standpoint of our blemishes, dings, and things like that, but from that more internal.
Mm-hmm.
view or
Mm-hmm.
perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So two trains of thought. The first one is I think internally those dings, those blemishes, if we've been broken and have had to like Humpty Dumpty put ourselves back together again,
Yeah.
or if you were to look at our soul and you were to see all those cracks and all of the
Yeah.
gold lining it, I think from that perspective, it is, and I hate to say this because it is just such a cliche, but it does make you stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing the difference between joy and heartache, and not knowing the difference between love and indifference, not knowing the difference between those two things
Mm-hmm.
is not, I don't think it's why we're here.
Right.
I don't think we're not supposed to have this easy breezy, everything is great from the time that we come out to the time we hit the grave. It's not,
Absolutely.
I just don't, I mean, I'm not saying you don't want to go out and seek it out. You don't want to go out and look for drama, but it's going to happen. You are
Right.
going to go through loss. You're going to go
Right.
through heartache. You're going to go through a myriad things
Mm-hmm.
that are going to happen
Mm-hmm.
that you didn't expect, you weren't prepared for, but the only way through it is through it. And
Yep.
so I think that being able to have that privilege of repairing yourself
Mm-hmm.
with that gold mark, it's like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
It's not feeling it when you're going through it,
Right.
but I do think I know there's a tarot card, and now I can't remember which one it is, but there's a tarot card that shows the mourning, like the character is mourning what's in front of them, but there's all this beautiful glory that's behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, you might be in the crap now, but look what you've accomplished, look where you've
Right.
come, look how far you've come, look how much in a different place you are now than you were, say, 10 years ago or a
Yeah.
year ago, getting
Yeah.
through grief or whatever.
Sure.
And then I think as far as the physical goes, I think we always try to fight wrinkles, we try to fight
Exactly.
crow's feet. We try to fight gray
Yep.
hair. We try to
Right.
fight flab. We try to fight loss. We try to fight all of that.
Right.
And if you just like anything else, if you're clutching so hard to something,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of work.
It's a
So
lot
it's
of energy.
it's just a lot of energy. And so like this morning when I was getting ready, because I know how much you love being on camera. Not you, not I said that the wrong way.
That's all
I said
right.
that the wrong way. It makes it sound like you're so, but you're right. For doing the visual portion of this,
Right.
I have fought it in this morning. Honestly, the first time in my life that I've been like, fuck it, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of look back on last night too with the person having the camera, and it's kind of like I wish wherever I was in my brain at that time, I kind of wish that I hadn't been there
Yeah.
because nobody cares.
Right.
It's not important.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to say crap about people. It doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I think having the things happen to you that come with age, particularly, um, it's just another rite of passage.
Yeah.
And we tend to, I think what we do is a lot of times we get to this point where we're women of a certain age. And sometimes we do compare ourselves to our 18-year-old selves,
Yeah, for sure.
especially if we're surrounded by people who are much younger than us, if we're
Right.
with our kids and their friends, or I
Right.
work at a college. And so I'm with people who are substantially younger.
Right.
And comparison also robs you of
Oh,
your joy
comparison.
too.
Thief of
It,
joy.
it is. It
A
really
thousand
is.
percent. Yeah.
So I think that's a good way for us to be able to fill that crack in by being able to look back. Okay, well, they might be 18 or 20 or whatever, and they can still do cartwheels without having to go to the emergency room, but they don't have the wisdom, the clarity,
Exactly.
the sense of purpose, like they don't know what
Right.
direction they're going in
Right.
necessarily. And as you get older, you start to have more, you're able to clear out all of the crap
Mm.
so that you can forge a path that's clearer for you at
Exactly.
that time.
Exactly. No, I think that's so true. And as you were talking, what I was hearing you say was, first of all, a takeaway that I love that you said is I think there's internal versus external.
Yeah.
So I think, right. So I love the idea that there's things happening inside that we don't always see in someone for sure, that they're going through something and they're having this, kind of broken down piece that feels like it's, been damaged and needs to have attention to it. But also the outer part of we are, which wrinkles are beautiful. And one of the things that I was thinking of earlier was I love, love, love one of my very favorite Brandy Carlisle songs is The Story. And she says, "You see the
Yeah.
lines upon my face, they're the story of who I am."
Yep.
And it's one of the most potent lines of that entire song for me. That's not for everybody else, right? Just my takeaway. It's
Right.
this really beautiful richness that when she can look at herself in the mirror, she's seeing her story behind those wrinkles. It isn't just something that says that she's aging or old or ugly or right. There's not this negative connotation. She's like,
Yep.
no, look at this. This is like, so for me, it's like my laugh lines at my eyes. I laugh all the time. I am
Right.
grateful for those efforts because honestly, they tell you how often I had occasion to laugh in my life.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, would I put on, little iPads underneath my eyes to decrease my depuffing? You bet. Would I like them to be a little bit lighter from time to time? Absolutely. I have vanity. I'm human, whatever. But the truth is for me, those are just like part of my story. They don't
Yep.
necessarily like, oh my God, oh Jesus, he's have to go. Good luck. I mean, first of all, good
Right.
luck. Unless I'm going to go do some facial reconstructions, that's probably not going to go anywhere. But also they're about my joy. They're literally about my joy. They're gold on my face. They are telling you where I've been, right? And that to me, that's what she's saying in that song. It's so powerful. And so for me, it's about again that grittiness. Can I see myself, my soul, my experience, and my journey? And what came forward for me, two things was the richness of a different kind of wealth. And I think that when we start to see the celebration and the honoring of where we've been, it's a different kind of wealth that we're achieving. And it's not money the way that we think about it.
Hmm.
It's a wealth of spirit. And
Yeah.
what came forward for me, and I don't even know, it just came out of nowhere, was I earned this.
Yeah.
I earned, which is
Yep.
funny because I think so many times, and I don't know about any of you listening, I think we can fall into a really victim mentality. Like, why is this happening to me?
A
Why
hundred
do
percent.
why are these wrinkles here? Why is my skin saggy here? Why can't I fit in those fucking pants like I used to? Why? Right? So many of those things can sneak into us and sort of erode our spirit because that's what they do. They don't, you've never been mean to yourself into progress. I hate to tell you listening, but like
No.
you've never hated yourself into a better spot. That actually does not actually work 0%. Okay. So, but the idea that I earned this, I earned these wrinkles, I earned these dings, I earned the space where my soul came back together and fused in a spot that's actually stronger than the rest of me is now because I've lived through some things. And
Yep.
I think that's just a totally different way to have a relationship with your life and your journey and your midlife in particular, where you're going, man, I've done a lot of things, I've seen a lot of shit, I've been around the block, and we know we're getting better at discerning when to give a shit and when to not give a shit, when it really matters. And we're still going to have moments. I mean, how many of us have ever been getting
Right.
ready for an event and you're like, God damn boobs or goddamn this, or how come that won't stay in tucked where I want it, or what, right? The hair or it doesn't matter what it is, right? It's a body, hair, image, whatever. We're
Right.
human, right? I'm never going to propose to any of us here that we just have this streamline of, whatever, because it would make you not gritty. Okay. So I
Right.
love you being gritty. I love me being gritty. That's what I think is so valuable. But really taking this mindset of like, I've earned this. I've earned this strength. I've earned the awareness. I've earned the right to show up to a party and wear my cash and decide I don't want to be in a photo. I don't have to do things I don't want to do. I can see the
Right.
value in where I've been. And to me, that is just a different kind of wealth. And I think that's something that could really help us in our culture view things differently because we're so stuck on wealth as money. And that's a whole nother conversation for another day. We won't dive into, but I do love this. And I'm going to be having this conversation coming around in a little bit in another workshop I'm going to be hosting. So it's right in the forefront of my mind is this idea of wealth and what does it look like? But I really want us to capture that notion of celebrating where we've been, to celebrate who we are, to celebrate the spaces and places that felt really unglorious at the time and how it got put back together. And because really all those lines are teachers then. They're teachers and they're memories and they're filled with value. They're actually filled with value. So at the time when you're going through it, so what you said is so true, is when we're going through something, it feels like shit. And it's real hard to go, oh, I'm so filled with value because we're going through it feels like ass. Like you wouldn't look at a friend going through something horrible like a foreclosure or divorce or God knows what else, right? A family loss and be like, this is so valuable and good, right? No, but because you also have the bandwidth to understand that the human experience requires we sit in the feels and honor that in its form as well. But I do think that with time, if we've lived enough life, we know that that will turn into something that changes us in a really potent way. And so it's, can we be looking for that potency? Can we be looking for the spaces where we've actually been made stronger and more resilient? We're more resilient because we've lived through stuff, actually. It makes us warriors, which is really funny. And I don't mean in a bad way. Like, it actually makes us fucking warriors in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
which I think is really freaking cool. So I think it's just celebrating that. So then my next question is, what do we do different then? So this is my, and I'm literally, by the way, Sue and I did not, this is not an agenda laid out conversation. So you all know. So I'm literally, when
Not
I
even a little bit.
nope, not even. We're running today. So it's very like, okay, totally authentic. And it's going to probably lean in a little bit to another podcast we're going to do about sisterhood and collaboration, which we'll get to. But Sue, what are your ideas about what do we do with this idea, this Kintsugi? If we adopt this notion that where we've been, the dings, the bruises, the breaks, the damage, and it gets filled in with this beautiful gold. How do we support? What do we do different, do you think, that we can start revolutionizing life, right? That's a whole mission that I'm on. So how do we revolutionize midlife and how do we show up differently? What are your ideas about that?
I don't know. I'll let you know when I figure it out.
Sucker. That's what I get for throwing out a question without telling her ahead of time. She's like, bitch, I'm punting it back to you. Listen, you know what? Here's what I'm going to say. Because I haven't thought this through. I'm not going to lie, which is one reason we do our podcast the way that we do, honestly, is we just didn't want it to feel canned.
Right.
Because it's
right.
I like that it's messy. I like that we don't always say we've got the answer. To me, that's the brilliance of what we wanted to do, was not just look like these, authorities kind of on shit, but rather it's like we're asking ourselves the same questions. And
Correct.
I think for me, it's, again, this is going to go back to, kind of it's going to sound super simple, stupid, but mindset. So one is, it's mindset. Can I shift my mindset into seeing the beauty? And then I think there's action associated with this, which looks like being better at celebrating this in some way. I think, and I'd have to be creative, because right now, off the top of my head, like, it almost I wish I had a circumstance on the top of my head to bring forward, because I feel like, oh, it'd be really good to think of a specific situation where you could really show up for someone and celebrate that. And not because there's a celebration, but not to deter away from the feels that they might have about it, right? So whatever they're experiencing. And I do think that one way to do this, honestly, is through storytelling, which I know is going to sound kind of funny. So I'm going to say one is mindset, two is actions. And I really think action is really celebration. And in my book, somebody else would have maybe a different word. That's mine. And then I think three is storytelling. And I think what happens when we tell story is we end up, if we're being willing to be a little vulnerable, we share the gold nuggets. And then what I think it looks like, honestly, is looking at another person. And in this case, I think we really kind of are catering to women in our podcast. So I'm just going to use women for the sake of our conversation and our listening audience mostly, but is saying to someone, wow, that's incredible what you did there. Wow, that's amazing. Wow, what was the teacher in that for you? Wow, how did that change you? And I really do think it's actually bringing another woman into their awareness about their warrior nature. Like, how hot damn, how the hell did you do that? So can I give you one, Sue? Can I do one? She's going to hate
Of course.
me. She's going to be like, I'm never podcasting with you again after today, but that's okay. So what I would say to you is one area in your life that I would not say is a broken teacup piece, but what I would say that I think was very challenging for you was having a child that you gave up for adoption.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it safe if I speak to you about this for a minute?
Absolutely. Obviously that's going to be the first thing that comes to my brain. So
Well,
yeah, of course.
Because I know it's fraught with every kind of hella emotion.
Right.
And what I would say to you is knowing who you are and knowing your soul, I am so grateful to witness and celebrate the decision that you made, which came with so much intention. And so, even though that might be a vein of gold somewhere inside of you, a space that was at one point very, very challenging, I think there's so much beauty in what you created, not only just in the form of a child, but in the form of listening to your soul and realizing that you felt called to make this decision for your own life and for the life of your child. You were,
Uh-huh.
and that was, I can only say, I imagine that was very, very hard. Was that very hard for you?
To make the decision
Yeah.
or to do it.
I mean, both. I mean, was there a challenge in it? I guess is what I'm
Oh,
saying.
no, no, no. It was a piece
Yeah.
of cake. I'm dead on the
Okay.
inside.
I didn't want to put words in your mouth. I'm like, I'm trying not to put words in your mouth. I'm assuming that there was
No, it was
some
the
real
same.
challenges, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
because I know you and I know how you love animals. I mean, so I'm just saying
Yeah.
your love for children would not have been less than that of animals. So I
Right.
knowing your big heart, I would want to say to you, I celebrate you and I celebrate that line of gold in your heart that will always be there, that honors that relationship and connection. And you still know your son. It's not right. He's not out of the
Right.
picture or anything like that, which is also beautiful. That became another beautiful space. It was the seam that got put back together in its own new way, right?
Yeah.
And so this is what I'm saying as an example, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I wanted to give an
Oh, it's
offer,
okay.
an opportunity for someone to hear the words of like, what would it look like if Sue's talking about her son or her experience? And I could look at her and say, wow, that must have taken so much strength for you. What was that like for you? And listen to her
Right.
and really listen to her, right? And again, it's you got to know your audience. I put her on the spot because she's one of my best friends and I know her story and I think she trusts me enough to go somewhere that might be a little deep. Um, but I think this is what it looks like. It could look like, hey, I see you there. That was probably really fucking hard. And I send you blessings, love, and light for the fact that you chose that when that had to be really effing hard. Or that thing you lived through, how challenging was that, right? So just kind of give an example. What were you going to say, sweetheart?
I actually was just no, I was actually just going to say it really would have been nice if I'd actually heard that in the last 19 years.
Well,
Because all I ever hear is, how could you do
how could you
that?
do that?
I could never do that.
And that's what I'm saying
What,
about I
were
think
you a
so many.
teenager?
Right, right. No,
Yeah,
I think that's what I'm saying is I think there's so many places in our lives. Oh, here's one of mine. And you don't have to speak to this. This is not a tit for tat. Speaking of children, this is very interesting. This would be one of mine. Is I almost died having my daughter. That's not I'm
mm,
prone to drama, but I'm not being dramatic. I almost died having her. And she was born very early, and it was a very traumatic experience. And the number of times that people said to me, when are you going to have more kids? How come you're not having more kids? Oh my God, she'll be so lonely. Who will she have when you die? The number of times that people
yeah,
said, women, this wasn't men, this was women. And they never even asked me, why did you have one? First of all, I don't know why you'd ever ask anybody why they only have one. And I joke with Chloe, I'm like, we did it so fucking right the first time. We didn't need to have another. So we love, in our family, we have
right,
humor first, right? But I'm just saying, so to me, again, in my heart, that was a really traumatic experience having one. I'm
right,
lucky I'm still fucking here, breathing and talking to you all. So don't come at me as another woman and make any assumptions about why I have one child. It's so
right.
thoughtless. But almost no one asked. I had to tell the story before someone went, oh. And then it was, oh, yeah. So maybe asking me questions or inquiring or talking about my strength first. And I think that's maybe what I'm going to say to you. All of you that are listening is, can you find the strength first in a woman's story?
Yeah,
Not the places she fucked it up, not the places she missed the boat. Could you look at a woman and say, God damn, look at you go, way to go having that baby. I bet that was tough. What was your birth experience like? How'd you feel about that?
yeah.
That's
And thank goodness Chloe's still here too. I
exactly,
mean,
exactly. I mean,
there's also that to and I'm throwing myself into this, so forgive me, but there's that fear if you do it again, Jen, neither one of you might be so lucky.
Oh, that's why we didn't do it again. But nobody asked.
Right?
We didn't
I
do it
mean,
again because I'm scared they'll die
right,
or I'll die or both. And
right,
we don't know what happened. We don't know why I didn't have a disease. I didn't have it just
right.
happened. So exactly. I mean, so I'm lucky my kid's here. I'm lucky I'm alive. I count my
Yeah,
fucking blessings. And I think I am a fucking warrior for that whole experience. And I think I'm a warrior for listening to all sorts of people comment and judge me,
right.
criticize me for my decision making, not knowing a single thing about who I am or what my story was about. And so this is where I say to you, and this is tough because if you don't know a woman real well, you might have to get a little creative. I'm not gonna lie. Sue and I can do this real easy because we have known each other for a very, very long time. I mean, probably
Mhm.
a little simpler for she and I. But I mean, Sue, what was it like for me to speak to you about your strength? What was that experience like to have someone look at you and say, you're a fucking badass warrior for what you did there? Because that's tough. What was that like for you to hear that?
It was uncomfortable because I'm not used to hearing
Yeah, I bet it
it.
is. Truly.
I
Yeah.
mean, and it's honestly, it's also something though that I have convinced myself of. I didn't necessarily need someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, the comments that I've gotten over the years is more along the lines of it wasn't so much that they're like, oh, you like what you said. You said you did this great thing to me, right?
Yeah.
The compliments, and I say in air quotes,
Mm-hmm.
that I've gotten is more so, oh, I'm so glad that you recognize that your life was so fucked up that you didn't want to fuck up another child's life. That's what
That's not a
I have
compliment.
heard. That's not a compliment.
Let's talk about what's not a compliment. That right there, not a compliment. Go ahead.
Not a compliment. That is what I'm used to hearing.
Yeah. Ick.
And so what's interesting though is that through all of that jargon and that backhanded compliment, I've still managed to tell myself the same thing that you just told me.
Because you knew it was from your soul. And that's what the
Correct.
gift is for you, was you knew in full alignment, making that tough choice, why you did it.
Right.
And to me, no matter what decision that is, and I will not lean into anything here that will send us off into the ozone because I'm sure that I could, but I'm just going to say whatever decision it is that somebody doesn't understand, it's not for you to understand. It's not
Correct.
for anybody else to get it, honestly. If I'm being brass tacks,
Yeah, it's none of your
it's nobody
business.
else's effing job. However, because we're human and we do want to be understood, we do want to be seen, we do want to, you know, not be validated like as a child. I don't mean it in a childish way, but like we do want people to understand and grasp the mystery of who we are. We're
Right.
always trying to figure out, right? So I get it. But I really do think bottom line, is we can adopt an attitude of it's none of my fucking business what your job is, what your life is, what your decision making was. It's none of my
Right.
business. And I can still hold space for that though. And I can lift
Right.
you up and celebrate. I can let my opinion go. This is a gift of being a therapist for a gazillion years. Honestly, you do learn the fine art of it doesn't fucking matter what I think.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what my opinion is because my only job is to hold space for you. That is,
Right.
as a therapist in a therapist office, that is your whole job. It doesn't matter what I fucking think. It doesn't
Yep.
matter what my opinion is, what my political stance is, what my belief system is about your spirituality and religion. It doesn't matter. It matters what you think.
Right.
And it still feels really empowering to have somebody see us and say, I see you there. I
Mm-hmm.
see what you did there. I see how you navigated the loss of your mom. I see how you navigated a trauma that experienced when you were X, Y, and Z. So to me, it's like we can just be so good to each other. And it
Mm-hmm.
really is about seeing the strength in someone and also like honoring their journey. Even if you don't get it, you don't have
Right.
to get it. It's not
Right.
required that we get it or that we would do the same thing. It's saying to somebody, I can see where you would come from in that place. And that's brilliant that that's what you did. And look at how you navigated that situation. I don't care what the hell it is. Whether it
Mm-hmm.
maybe I know a woman that's had breast cancer twice. She's,
Yeesh.
oh, she's at least got to be, oh, I'd say she's younger than I am. Twice. This poor woman has lived through hell and gone. And I've watched her journey in one capacity or another. And so I said to her the other day, I saw her, she posted something about, still being well from not having breast cancer and all of her journey. And I'm like, you're a fucking badass. You're a fucking badass. You're a warrior. I see you there. I know what you went through. I know what treatment was like because you shared it. Have I lived through it myself? No. Can I only imagine what I'd be like? Uh-huh. And it'd be
Yeah.
ugly. And she makes it look like a fucking piece of cake. And I know it's not.
Right.
I know that's her strength talking. But I can still say to her, you're a badass. You're a badass that you went through that. So that's really, I guess, for me, when I think about what we do different, I'm just trying to think about out of my head, like, where do we
Yeah.
go? How do we take this? And I really do think it's in storytelling that safe space is being held. And again, this is going to go to sisterhood and collaboration as well, because I think that's the same thing that's really we need the link of. But I think it's
Hmm.
leading with strength. It's when you look at another woman, can the first thing you do is lead with their strength. See where they've been a warrior, reflect that warrior quality, that power and strength. Because to me, that's what I think is going to leave a woman feeling like, okay, seen. Does that like, okay, seen? And if you don't know, if you're like, I don't know, say, what was that like for you?
Right.
What was that like for you? Was that challenging? Was it easy? Was it right? What were your feels about it? So I think these are some things that what I would do is that, and listen, if you're listening to us, what are ideas? How do we do this different? Sue and I are not the only two midlife women out here doing this thing. I mean, there's a million of
Right.
us. So lay it on us, bitches. Come on, like tell us what are your ideas? What are other ways we can really show up and hold space for people that we can honor and celebrate these beautiful spaces where we've come back together again, the seams that really make us magical on the
Be
inside,
the
frankly.
gold.
Yeah, exactly. So I would
Yeah.
love to hear from you all. Share us with us your ideas about what can you do. These are just mine. Mindset, action to celebrate people, and then I think storytelling, and honestly, starting with strengths first, which is probably first. Fourth, actually. My fourth in my list. There we go. So that's where I think my brain goes is I think it's time to begin shifting in midlife the relationship we have with these things and seeing the richness in what we're made of, the parts that got, broken, broke ass, and then put back together. And to
Hmm.
me, I just feel like whether that's a relationship or an experience or a loss or a health issue or whatever, man, let's come together and really honor and let's look for. And maybe this is another thing, honestly, which is going to sound funny, is can you look for it in another woman? Wouldn't it be different to look at another woman and say, I see it. I don't know a thing about you. I'm going to give you this and I want you to really think about this. I'm writing it down. I want you to really think about this. If you went out, and this is your homework, this is your task, this is your coaching task, is go out in the world and for the next couple days, each woman that looks approximate life, no judgment, just approximate living life, I want you to look at her and go, I wonder what magic she's holding. I wonder what gold veins and beauty she has inside her. I wonder what she's carrying. That's her effing secret sauce and magic. And I want to see what happens for you when you energetically look at a woman and instead of going, oh, competition, oh, look at her hair, oh, look at her clothes, oh,
Yeah.
look at her shape, oh, look at blah, 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 what she's doing, what she's saying, da, 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 da. Take it all out, wipe it all off the fucking map, and look at a woman. And I swear to you, look for her fucking gold. Because I just think it changes the world when we look at each other with a different lens like that than the one that says you're different than me. Yep,
Right.
we are. But what's magical about that person?
Yep.
Ask yourself that instead of anything else when you see another woman.
I
So,
love that.
yeah. Any other thoughts though, Sue? Any other leftover? That's kind of, I'm like, I kind of feel like I would love to hear from other people about their suggestions and ideas, but those are probably my five. But was there anything else that you want to throw in there as we close up for today?
So to yeah, so to kind of go along with that question that you just asked, but also with what you said something earlier
Mhm.
that sparked a question or an idea or thought.
Mhm.
Imagine your mother, your grandmother, whatever vision you have of a woman who is old midlife or older with the wrinkles.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine what they would look like if physically those wrinkles were actually filled with gold. Imagine what
Mm-hmm.
kind of a piece of art that would
That's
be.
a really
Obviously,
cool.
we can't see.
Yep, sorry. So everybody just give it 1 second because unfortunately Sue's there we go. Also, you were chatting it up and it was gone. So I'm just going to follow up. You were saying if we looked at an older woman and she had wrinkles and we actually saw gold in them, if we visualize, go ahead, sweetheart. You were saying something beautiful and I'm so sorry I got cut off. Go ahead. Okay, so we're having technical difficulties. Okay, so there she is. Can you let's go back to where you were.
Okay,
Perfect. You're good.
there we go.
There we go.
I didn't hear anything you said for the last 60 seconds.
So all I was saying is I love that where you were going with if we saw an older woman and we saw her wrinkles and we saw gold in it, instead of it
Yeah.
being like an aging or like, oh my God, you're old. Or so go ahead and start from where you were because that was a beautiful idea.
Yeah. So just what I said after that was obviously we can't look at somebody's soul and do that because
Right.
that's more important, right? I mean,
Yes.
if we're
Yes.
being
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
But if you were able to look at wrinkles and it going back to what we said in the beginning of all of this, like all of those things for whatever reason seems to be what we focus on as a negative. Like you start here and then, oh, wrinkle, that takes off 5 points and bad hair takes off 5 points. And then we diminish each other down. If
Yeah.
you were to be able to just right away look at someone
Mhm.
and see all of that gold, you
Exactly.
know, we're
Exactly.
going to say in our mind that gold is more beautiful than not,
Right.
then we would have no choice but to see all of that, the warrior scars and
Exactly. Exactly. And you could see it,
life
you could see it
experience.
gold as the legitimate gold, or you could also think of it as light. The light that
Oh,
we carry
yeah.
is coming through. So I love both. I love the vision of actual gold, which is like this rich, beautiful element, right? Or
Yep.
I can just go, those are all the spots where the light shines through. And that to me is so powerful and beautiful. And it's great.
Yeah.
It's one little story that Tara Brach, and I don't know if I've ever told it in here on the podcast. I'm guessing I have, but I love her idea about monks in a monastery and they had to move this Buddha statue and
Yeah.
whatever. And so they went to move it and it started to rain and they had this big, I'm sure they had a contraption to help lift it because I'm sure it was heavy as shit. And it starts to rain and all of a sudden the mud's coming off and there's gold underneath there. And what they
Yeah.
realized is they started to wash it off. And what they had done and during a war was they covered that statue in fucking mud so that the people that came in during the war didn't see its value. And so I think it's cool to think about, listen, that's what's riding around in all of us. That's actually, to me, our souls, that's what's riding around all of us. And so to me, the power of looking at each other and going, in each and every person you see is a golden Buddha. They might not
Hmm.
know it, but we can see it and we can know it. And I
Right.
just think, again, so it's neat to think about if I have a Buddha in me, but all that you can see sometimes are these little cracks and crevices like Kintsugi, right? That it's like, oh, it's like, look at that. It's like starting to shine through. That's such a cool way to celebrate and honor where we are and who we are. Like, I just love that idea. And that story it's never leaving me. I talk about it all the time because I think
Yeah.
it's such a good reminder that there's so much we're carrying around that's beautiful inside of us. And so I'm like, oh, any reminder to think about it a little bit differently. So, but
Hmm.
yeah, I freaking love that, Sue. That's so beautiful to look at a woman. And again, this is just I challenge you, we challenge you to go out. Can we try a different practice? What happens for you energetically? How do you feel when you see a woman and go, oh, that's cool. That's neat.
Hmm.
I wonder about her. I wonder what beauty she's holding. I wonder where her golden Buddha is and like what that looks like. And I bet she's got all sorts of beautiful veins inside there that are hosts of information and stories and experiences and memories and love, right? I mean, there's
Hmm.
so much love to be seen in some of these wounds that we carry, that we feel are wounds, right? But where they're sealed together, usually I'm guessing that there's going to be a whole space of strength and love in there, honestly. That's what I think they're
Yeah.
probably have. So super beautiful. So thanks so much everybody for listening. This was a really fun conversation. Sue nailed it to pick this one as first, of course. So love that so much. And just want to say thanks so much to everybody for coming and spending time with us. We're always so super grateful to have you here. And always, we want to hear from you. Please always know we love questions, comments, feel free to like, subscribe, follow, and then feel free to share it out. But definitely engage with us. I mean, that's one of the pieces that we really look forward to, are women that are brave enough to step in and say, wow, that really resonated, or I wonder about this, or this could be another step. We are here to engage community and sisterhood, actually. So that's why part of this whole space is created. So we welcome that. We'd love to hear from you. Any other finishing thoughts, my dear friend? Anything?
No,
Okay.
no.
All right.
I
Well,
think I'm good.
excellent. So we'll be back around, friends, but thanks so much for now for hanging out and sharing space with us. We're so grateful, and we can't wait to see you in the next podcast, share some time in airspace with you. But obviously, as always, Sue and I send blessings, love, and light to all of our listeners. So much gratitude for your listening, and looking forward to sharing space with you again. So take care, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.